First up, Tom heads to South Dakota to hear how Black Hills Ammunition started from just a dream to building ammunition for the most elite warfighters in the U.S. military.
I called my dad and I told him, we've got this good idea to get into this ammo business, and I really think it'll work. And I said, will you loan us the money? He said, no. We got started in this business, I think, as a natural extension of my interests. My grandfather and father taught me to shoot at a very young age.
When we started dating, he was 15, I was 17. Yes, I robbed the cradle.
Growing up, I enjoyed hanging out with the cops. I'd walk uptown, hop in with one of the city cops and ride around with him for the weekend. Got to know him pretty well, and of course I'd participate in some of the scrapes they'd get into, and went to college for law enforcement. In college, I wanted to do an internship, and so I lined up a job with the city. The only problem was, to be a police officer, you had to be 21, and I was only 19. Chief Maskovich from the Fort Pierre Police Department went over to the State Standards Commission for law enforcement, and they said, Chief Maskovich, can you explain to us why this young man, even though he's not of age yet, should be allowed to be a law enforcement officer? And Chief Maskovich looks at him, looks at me, and he says, he's good in a bar fight. And the guys on the other side of the table looked at each other and said, okay.
Started what we thought was going to be our great life together, him as a cop, me being in accounting, doing that kind of work, and soon to realize that that was not going to happen.
Police wages back in 1979 weren't very good. We started at $4.67 an hour. We just weren't making it.
Jeff was really happy being a law enforcement officer, but we were literally starving to death.
Kristi says, your friend who started this ammo deal asked you to go to work.
Jeff said, I don't know.
What are you talking about? I don't know anything about business, and even though my dad was a businessman, I wasn't paying attention. I was too busy drinking beer and chasing her.
Think about it, because what we're doing really isn't working. Let's take a leap of faith.
I don't know anything about business. She says, well, you know everything about ammo.
And I know a little bit about business. That's what I went to school for, so let's see what happens.
We got laughed out of every bank in Rapid City. We were so young and green, we really didn't understand the concept of collateral. So there I was turned down by my dad as well as every bank, but he says, I'll co-sign for you, which is actually better. So he co-signed for us, we borrowed $12,000, and we were in the ammo business. We've been extremely successful, extremely blessed. We've had so many successes where we should have failed. Each one of these big Gaylords has about 75,000 rounds of brass in them. And that's military specification, military tested. It's the best brass, and the best 5.56 brass in the world right here. One of the most rewarding things we do here at Black Hills Ammunition is produce ammunition for the U.S. military. We had this security inspector come through, and somebody wasn't a regular. We didn't work with this guy on a regular basis. He came through, and we're giving him a tour. And he was absolutely not impressed in any fashion whatsoever. Nothing I told him really cracked his face any. The last stop we made was a little corner of an office where we have some tokens of appreciation from some of the units that we support. And he looks at this and he says, you know these guys? I said, yeah, we know these guys. I said, that's what the difference is. We're not building something to sell the government. What we're doing is building combat ammunition for our friends who are going to war with it. And he looks at me and goes, I understand. Every round of ammunition that we produced is hand inspected by someone with great training so they know what they're looking for.
Wow.
She's looking for the slightest scratch, some of them that have too much primer sealant on it, some of them that don't have any primer sealant, she'll catch those, pull those out.
Right.
Anything like the crimp isn't perfect, the slightest little dent. And the cosmetic seconds, those, most of the time on duty, my magazines were loaded with cosmetic seconds.
No kidding.
I had that much confidence in them, and I trust these girls with my life, as you can see, because I'd load my magazines with the cosmetic seconds. When I talk about passion, there's a reason for it. There was one lady who was an inspector, and her son was an Army Ranger. And she would take extreme care because she knew that her son could end up with that ammunition. And matter of fact, her son in Afghanistan used to go through the ammunition looking for his mother's inspection number on that ammunition. And he would share that with his friends, and he told his mom about that, and of course, she shared it with the other people that she worked with inspecting the ammunition here, and all of a sudden they all became moms. You know, they all realized that, hey, this is real. People's lives depend on us doing our job perfectly. People say, Jeff, you've been successful. You and Kristi have been very successful in building Black Hills Ammunition. What do you attribute your success to? And you could give them a long-winded answer, but oftentimes what I tell them is enthusiasm and ignorance. You have to be really enthusiastic about what you're doing, but ignorant about how badly you could fail.
All right, Jeff, what weight bullet are we using on this?
160 grain solid copper honey badger.
You got a nice temporary wound cavity. We've got about 20.5 inches of penetration after it went through the 2x4.
I'd feel comfortable using it as bear defense. You can see the kind of penetration there. You don't really need 300 grain hard cast bullets, although that's a good choice. I think this is a good choice.
It really is. Honey badger just keeps on working.